Hello, and welcome to another session on using Blender for video editing. Today we're going to talk about garbage and core. Garbage and core mats. These two input sockets into our very useful keying node, which we used in the last session to take the green out from the footage that we had put in to our compositor. And what we were left with was this. Our subject or talent, along with the table over there, still visible, but the green background, as we can see over here, was completely removed. Ran across a few challenges there where we had to fiddle with clip black and clip white because of two reasons. Let me quickly redo this keying node so we can see what those were. So I'll just select this, press X to delete, and now I will add the keying node back in, and we will set that to composite as well. And what are we saying here? What was the problem? Let me jump ahead a little bit because I think we saw it more towards the end of the footage. Here we go. So what we tried to do is we set the background color to remove as this. And if I switch over to matte, what we'll see is it wasn't quite right. So for the part around the subject, yes, that background got removed, but there was still quite a bit showing up when you look at the matte output of the keying node. And in addition, the desk, which definitely should be fully opaque, was a little bit transparent, and that allowed some of the color to seep through from the background once we went into the video sequence editor and tried to put it on top, like we can see over here. Yeah, as you can see here, if I zoom it in, you can see there's a bit of purple there, and that definitely shouldn't be like that. That was the challenge we had. So the fix at the time was to adjust these settings. Clip black, we brought that up. Clip white, we brought that down. And doing that fixed it for the most part. But there are other ways that we can approach the problem, and that's what we're going to cover today. Garbage and core. So before we get into it, let's talk about what they are. Garbage, the garbage mat is basically defining areas within the footage that you do not want to show up at all. So in this case, what I will show you is how to set up a garbage mat so it'll get rid of some chunks of the background. And the way to do it is to create masks that we can then apply to the keying node. Core is the flip of that. Core is parts of the footage that you definitely want to keep. And normally this would be sections of the footage where the color is similar to the background and it's getting removed. So for this demonstration, we're going to define an area. This area here that contains the table, and then we will use that as the core mat. It will definitely make it through the processing and it will be fully opaque. So now that we know how to apply these things, let's go about creating them. And the creation of them is the same for both garbage and core. You are pretty much going to create masks. Now, if you've watched some of my previous videos on creating masks, you know that that's a whole topic to itself, mask creation and animating the mask, tracking. But we're going to start a little bit simpler within the compositor because there are two nodes that you can create which generate masks. So let's go ahead and see that now. What we're going to do is we are going to reset this keying node so we can see it from its original state. So that means I'm going to take clip black and set that back down to 0, and clip white back to 1. These are the default values. So this is what we're working with here. Now let's go ahead and create a mask that we're going to use for the garbage mat, and it will cover off this section here. So once we apply it, this whole section, it will be wiped out. We don't have to worry about it. To do that, we will add a node. So I'm going to go up here to add, and under matte, we have two choices actually. We have the box mask, which is a rectangle, it creates a box. We also have the ellipse mask. So same idea, but it's some kind of ellipse instead. So what we'll do here is we will create a box mask. So I will click that, and then I'll just place that somewhere over here to the left of our keying node. So I'll bring that down there. Now, as soon as I do that, you may notice that there is a bit of a box outline over here. Let me shift these around so we can see it better. So by default, it puts it right in the center. But like I said, we want to create a box that covers off this section. Now to do that, of course, I could fiddle with the settings right here. But having all of this stuff is kind of in the way. It makes it hard to see. So I'm going to shift everything over. And instead, I will rely on this interface over here, which has the exact same options. The only things that you typically don't get here are the sockets, but we don't need to worry about that. So let's go ahead and just click and drag with the left mouse button to position this box. Okay, it's a little bit hard actually. Maybe it's easier to click on the arrows or punch in values. But anyway, as you can see, this is the process. Now I'm also going to try to do that over here with the width to get it to about the width we need. I'm going to make it more like that and then increase it a bit more. As you can see, it's not the easiest thing. Working with a mask inside of the movie clip editor is actually easier, which is funny to say because actually it's not that easy, but it's easier than this once you get the hang of it. Anyway, okay, so I was trying to adjust that, but no, it's not quite working. Maybe I put in a value of 0.65. Okay, great. Okay, so this is good enough for the demonstration. So with this mask applied, it'll get rid of all of this. So let's go ahead and do that. So now I will use my middle mouse button to pan across, and then I will simply connect the dots. This mask output into the garbage matte input socket. And it's done. This is now completely black. And that is an example of how to do that. But what if we wanted multiple sections using the tools we have within the compositor? So obviously, I only have these settings available to me, so I cannot use this one box mask to cover off both the right and the left side. What I can do is create multiple masks and then combine them. We did see the combination of matte outputs in one of our prior videos, but we're definitely going to go through it again here. So what we're going to do is add another mask that will cover off most of this section, just for demonstration purposes. So I won't try to be exact here. And this time I will use the ellipse mask instead of the box mask, because we've already seen the box mask. So let's go ahead and do that now. Instead of going to the add menu, I will press Shift A. And again, it's under matte, and it's this one here, ellipse mask. Okay, here we go. And I'll place that. And before we say anything else, I just noticed there is another one under matte. There's also this double edge mask. I haven't tried it. I'm not going to do it here, but looks like we have more options if we need them. Anyway, so we have our ellipse mask, and once again it's placed in the center, and it does kind of look like still a box. So what we're going to do is press Control, Shift, and left click here so we can see what it really looks like. There we go. So we can see without this being set as our viewer, we can see the box outline, but in fact it really is an ellipse. So let's go ahead and switch back over to maybe just this movie clip as a source so that we can then click again on, not box mask, sorry, on ellipse mask and then position this. So again, I'll shove this off to the side and then use these fields here to adjust it. Wow, it moves quite quickly. So let's make this a little bit, well, it doesn't have to be perfect, like I said, just relatively close to what we're after. And I think that's good enough. Okay, so we now have our ellipse mask over here, and we have that box mask over there. Now, let's go ahead and combine them. So to combine them, we will need a third node, which is the math node. So let's add that now. So I'll go to the add menu, and this is under, what is it under? Distort? I can never remember. This is under converter. Okay, go to math. Oh, actually, you know what? Let me show you something. When you don't know where something is, you don't have to try to find it. You can search for it. So if I go to the add, I can just click in here and start typing. I'll just start typing math, and there it is. So you don't need to know which category it is. You can always find it by searching. So there we go. There's our math node. So I will add that right over here. Let's go ahead and view it. So I will click on Control Shift left click so we can see what it looks like. Right now it's fully white, not very useful, but we'll see some changes once we start connecting things up. So the box mask, I will click and drag to join that up. There we go. So now we see there's the white from the box mask. And now the other one, the ellipse mask. And there we go. So now we have the two masks combined. So now we have this matte, which is this box and this ellipse. And we can feed this into the garbage matte of our keying node. So let's go ahead and do that. I will click and drag over here to replace that. And now if I press Control Shift left click on the keying node, kind of hard to see there, but if I switch over, click once more to switch to see the matte, you can see this is what it looks like now. So we didn't change any of these settings here. All we did was we added our garbage matte, and now we can see that definitely those pieces have been fully wiped away. We wouldn't have to worry about them. So if we had done a better job setting it up, then most of that would be taken care of. Of course, the fact that the subject moves around a little bit would make that hard. So it's not the easiest thing to do. But one thing I should point out is that you can actually animate the position and size of these different masks. Just like animating anything else, if we really wanted to, let's say we start over here. So just as a demonstration, let me go back over to the box mask, show that. So at the beginning here, actually that's not the beginning, jump to previous marker. There we go, that's our starting point. Let's say that I wanted it to start with this position. So I can go here, press the I key to set my keyframe here, and then we'll go a little bit ahead to this point, let's say, and I can adjust that value if I wanted to. Let's say, well, that's a lot of movement. Okay, let's put it over here, and then press the I key again. Now it is keyframed. So you can see if I go from here and start clicking through, it shifts over time as per the normal animation method. Now, how it's actually shifting is probably just linear. So let's check that if we can, and maybe we can. So let's go here, just open this up to get into the graph editor. Actually, yes, it looks like it is possible to adjust how the animation works. So right now it's the Bezier. So if we wanted to make it linear, we could, I guess, select everything here and go to key, interpolation mode, and set to linear, and then it would be animated in a linear fashion. So good to know. But anyway, there you go. We have seen now how we can take masks, box mask or ellipse mask, and connect that to our garbage matte, or combine multiple masks into a single one and then use that as the input into our keying node. So that is dealing with garbage. And before we move on to core, one thing I would like to point out, and I'm sure if you've seen the other videos I've been making, you have noticed this too, the parts that we want to get rid of are white. That kind of goes against what we've been talking about this whole time when it comes to mask. We keep saying if it's white, it's opaque, we will be able to see it, and if it's black, then you can't see it. But when it comes to the garbage matte, that's not how it works. White is the parts that you want removed. That's the garbage area. We don't want the white. And as for the black sections, it's not to say that we want to keep them, but it's more that we don't want them to be affected by our use of the garbage matte input socket. Okay, so that was garbage matte. Let's talk about the core matte. So for that, I'll do a much faster example. And again, we were talking about how we would create a mask that would more or less ensure that the desk will be opaque. Now, I'm not going to make it perfect, so let's just do something quick that will demonstrate this, because we've already seen how you set up masks inside the Compositor now. So I will go ahead and add a new mask, and this will just be a box mask, and I'll stick it over here. And as before, I will use these settings to set it up. So this should be good for the width, and now I just need to drop it down a little bit more. You know what, that's good enough for the demonstration, because as I recall, like this part in particular here, we could see that the purple was coming through. So once we apply this as the core, we should see that it is now just white. There's no purple at all around here. Okay, so we've got that box mask. Let's go ahead and attach it. So I'm going to click and drag to core. And now, do we have everything set up? Let's switch the view to this. Oh yeah, you can definitely see that there's a difference in color there. But to finish off this whole demonstration, let's go ahead and view this in our video sequence editor. And I think I just need to refresh this by jumping back and forth a bit. Yeah, there we go. So there it is. The table from this point down, fully opaque, but above that you can see it's a little bit purple. That is the demonstration of garbage and core, but don't go just yet. I have a few more things to show you. First off, notice how we were just switching back to the video editing workspace to look at our results here in the video sequence editor. You don't need to do that. You can do your check inside of the Compositor. So let's go ahead. If we're going to copy what we did in the video sequence editor by having a purple background, the first thing to do is to add that as a node. So we're going to go to add input, and we'll say image because there is no color node. So I'll add this image, and I will stick it over here. Now over here you can see under properties we have some options. So instead of actually adding an image, we are going to generate something using these features here. So to do that, we have to click on the new button, and then we have to fill in these different settings. Now we have to match the width and height of our source material, otherwise it'll look weird. So 1920, 1080. And the color, let's go with purple like we saw over there in the VSE. Hit OK. And there we go. Now we have a color. So how do we take this color and put it behind our keying results? That is with another node called alpha over. So let's go ahead and do that searching thing. I'm going to press Shift A to pop up this box and just type alpha over. There it is. And plop it right here. And now we just need to connect the dots. So image to image and image to image. And now let's press Control Shift left click to see what we've got. So there you have it. There's our preview. So we've got the purple, and like we saw in the video sequence editor, this part is a little bit purple and this part's fine. So that is how you can preview your results inside of the Compositor. All right, so now we've seen several things. We've seen how to do the garbage matte, the core matte, how you can do your preview right here inside of the Compositor. Okay, so finally, before you go, I want to show you one more thing. How you can take a mask that you created inside of the movie clip editor through the masking workspace and make use of that here as a core matte. So let's go ahead and go into that masking workspace so you can see what it is. Let me shift these things up to give us more space here. So there is the mask, this box over here, not this other box, that's the tracking marker. So I've already created it. using the same process that we covered in a prior video about how to create a tracking marker and pair it up with the mask to automatically animate over time. But anyway, the idea is that we've got our Cookie Monster puppet here, and it has this section here which needs to stay in the footage. So obviously it's pretty much the same color as the background, so normally it would get removed. As I scrub through here, you can see it's mostly following. This would be something that would be fairly hard to do inside of the compositor with those nodes that I showed you. But as you can see here, it's pretty decent. So that's the mask. Now let's see the application. So we'll go back to compositing. And over here, I'll flip over to CM Compositor. And yeah, there you can see we've got that section right there is going to be partially, or in some parts maybe fully transparent. So what we need to do to fix that is over here, we're going to add an input, and this will be a mask input. So we take our mask input node, drop it here, and then we can click on this box and select the mask that was created. So if I view it now, you can see it's that section right there. So now all we need to do is click and drag this to core. And as soon as we do that, it will be fixed. So there we go, there it is. Our fixed mask. As we scrub through, you can see that that section right there is always going to be visible. We don't have any concerns. Oh, except that it's gray. Okay, so obviously that's the wrong color for the piece of tape that's on our puppet. And what we could potentially do is use this thing here, despill factor. It's already at the max value, so we can reduce it so that the color will appear. But as you can see, it also brings the color back around the edges of our talent, of our subject. So bring it all the way down to 0, lets that color come through as it should look. If I click over here, yeah, see now it looks perfect, but we also get all of this green outline, which we don't want. So what can we do here? One thing we could try to do is, instead of using it as a core, we actually use the movie clip twice. Once letting it feed directly into keying, and then once using it along with this mask node that we brought in, and then putting one on top of the other, kind of forcing it in place and without fiddling with these settings. I haven't actually done this before, so we're doing this, like this is not a live stream, but this is the closest I guess I'll ever get to live stream. Wait, sorry, that was the wrong value. See, I'm already messing up because I don't normally do unscripted work. So, okay, let's go ahead and try that because I think it'll work. Okay, so I'm going to take the movie clip. So we have the movie clip, we have the CM core. Get rid of this association. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is do I think a set alpha is what I want, which should be under set alpha here. Let's try that. So set alpha. Okay, so the image source is going to be that movie. All right, let's click on that. So there it is, the image source. But now we're going to take this and put that under the alpha, and we're left with just that piece. Okay, so now we have this piece, which is looking great in terms of the color we want. And then we have this other thing, and we're going to put the piece on top of the result of the keying node. And by the way, folks, if anybody has a better way of doing this, like actually just working directly with the keying node, I would love to hear it. Please do leave a comment, because I would love to know how to do this better. Anyway, so here we go. What we're going to do, I think, would be similar to what we did doing that preview of the other one, getting that purple. So that means we're going to need the alpha over. Alpha over would be, I can't remember. Oh yeah, I didn't find it last time. I did a search. So let's do that again. Alpha over. There we go. So as I recall, the one on top was the one that's actually underneath. So that means I want keying as the first, and then set alpha here as the second. And if we click on that, there we go. I think that looks good. So now we've got our Cookie Monster with the proper color on the center there, and everything else looks decent. And just to make sure it actually looks good, let's go ahead and do that final step of putting a background on now. So same idea, we're going to add an image node, and we're going to create, oh, that is already set up, cool, okay. I'm going to do that purple, and we're going to duplicate this. Shift D to duplicate, stick that over here. So this will become, oh, it's kind of hard to see now. Let me zoom in. This color becomes the input for the first socket. This alpha over for the second socket. Control Shift left click, and yeah, it looks pretty good. So as we can see, as we zoom in here, Alt V to zoom in. Yeah, it definitely looks okay with that centerpiece. There's bits of purple showing through because the mask wasn't perfect, but this was a demonstration of core and garbage, and that we're going to leave it at that. Okay, so that's everything. We've covered so many things now. We've talked about garbage and core, what they are, how you can build them using the mask nodes inside of the compositor, or using a mask that you created inside of the movie clip editor, how you can join these different masks using the math node, or here in this case, putting results one on top of another using alpha over. Covered a lot, actually. I wasn't expecting to talk about all these things, but there you go. That's it for today's session. I really hope you did like that. If you did, please do give this a like, and consider subscribing and clicking the bell so you can get notifications when new material is posted, because if you are a current subscriber, you know that I don't post on a regular basis. So again, thank you very much for watching, and see you next time. Bye now.